Damage.
Interesting. Agreed.
Damage.
You're probably right.
Damage. Damage.
Thank you very much.
Do you know what, lad, there, right at the end, you're probably right.
Punches are born. That's my saying. I've said it for years. Punches are born. They are not made. Itauma is a puncher. He was born to be a puncher. So people will expect him to get the knockout, like Mike Tyson. Similar. They were looking at the similarities. Knockouts, young. Matter of fact, there was some talk that maybe he could break Tyson's record and win the heavyweight title as the youngest heavyweight. That's not going to happen. That date has passed. That ship has sailed. But that was something they would think about. I think Frank Warren, his promoter, did the right thing. Rather than rushing it, he gave him the fights he needed to get more seasoning, more maturity, more development. And this is part of that. This is part of that journey. This is part of that job. And that is the job in developing a fighter. And I like him a lot. He's talented. I like he's technically sound. He's got Ben Davidson doing a good job. He had people before that. They've done a good job. He's technically solid. He knows how to fight. He could get you out of there by going to you and by getting you to come to him and counterpunching. He's got good hand speed. As I said, he's fundamentally solid.
An opportunity to box one of the greatest ever. Some may say the best heavyweight ever when it's all said and done, potentially. You know, what better opportunity to test your skills than against somebody like that? That's what you're in the game for, so.
I think that Jermaine Franklin versus Moses Itauma is a really, really good fight for Itauma's progression. I think he's a solid opponent. I've got no issues whatsoever. It's on a very, very good card. No mention of pay-per-view as well, which is even better. But it's a solid opponent. Jermaine Franklin, when he fought Dillian Whyte, going into that fight, I kind of looked at him and thought, he looked awkward, but nothing special. He gave a good account of himself against Dillian Whyte. Some people actually felt that he did enough to win the fight. I wasn't one of them. I thought Dillian Whyte won the fight.
In my opinion, Jim, yeah, it is. I think that, you know, you've got to look at the styles. Moses Itauma, we saw what he done to Dillian Whyte last time. You know, we expected Dillian Whyte to give him rounds out in Saudi Arabia, and he didn't. He went out there and he absolutely obliterated Dillian in one round, took him apart. Southpaw style, very spiteful and very aggressive. Now, we know Jermaine Franklin, who's only lost to Anthony Joshua on points and Dillian Whyte on points, and a lot of people felt he actually won that fight against Dillian Whyte. He's tricky, he knows how to hustle his way round. I've seen him in the gym, actually. I've been up close and personal with him, you know, through this training camp, and you look at it and you just look at the styles and you go, I think he's in trouble here against a young, fresh Moses who's very spiteful and starts very fast. It could be an early night for Moses Itauma if he gets it tacked.
All stuff I could capitalize off of. I have the ring experience to be able to show different looks and give different looks, so he hasn't really been tested as far as someone seasoned that can just give him different styles, change the looks up, not someone that's just going to sit there and be a punching bag. So,
do you think, I mean, he's never gone past 2 rounds so far, Jermaine. Do you think you could be the first to take him into what would be uncharted territory for Moses?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to be the first to beat him. Forget uncharted territories. I'm trying to be the first to give him to take away his O on his record. So, you know, I guess people think like when you got a young superstar that everybody else is just a walkover or a standing stone, but you know, I come to fight. I really come to give it my all and to shock.
He's been going through opponents like Bonnie Blue, goes through Nickers. Okay, I've come in hot. Okay, let's calm it down. But like a heavyweight should, he brings the excitement, the speed and agility for such a big guy, the power, and he's a southpaw to top it off.
The block, Moses Itauma, who looks absolutely extraordinary, and for me, he ticks all the boxes. I like his attitude, I like his style, southpaw, hard-hitting, moves so well. He's going to be very, very difficult to sort of deter. So it's an interesting one because, yeah, is this too soon for Moses, or is this just the right fight at the right time?
No, he might be one of the fastest guys, but I spar a lot of fast guys. You know, I think I'm ready for the hand speed.
I get shit all the time on the internet, but what am I going to do about it? What can I do about it? I'll get fucking 5 years if I hit someone.
So why would you care with the position you're in?
It's not that you don't care, because you can care sometimes. Sometimes you'll see comments and you'll think, you cheeky bastard. You think, if I ever got fucking hold of you and I could get away with it, I'd fucking rip you fucking head.
I'm 50-50. personally, it depends on what style he brings. So it's like, I think if he's like measured, then yes. But if he does what I think he might try and do, which is I'm gonna show this guy get inside and work like clever shots, I don't think so. I think with someone like Moses, who is naturally so explosive and so quick and technical, he's got so many good attributes, but as we've seen with in any sport across any profession, that explosiveness, in my opinion, cannot happen for 12 rounds. It never happens.
Punches are born, not made. And Moses Itauma just proved that statement in the most devastating way possible. This kid isn't just another prospect getting fed easy fights. He's a genuine knockout artist who's making seasoned veterans look like amateur hour, and now he's about to face his biggest test yet against Jermaine Franklin. But here's what nobody's talking about. This fight could either launch Itauma into superstardom or expose him as just another overhyped heavyweight who crumbles when the lights get bright.
Going through the motion, he's serious about it, you know, so I liked it.
Yeah, like his energy was like very calming throughout the week.
Yes, it was.
Moses here, this is going to be a case of, let's see, 1, if we can get rounds. 2, can he do a better job than Anthony Joshua and Dillian White did? Can he get rounds but also get him out of there? I guess that's kind of the question for Moses. But for me, this is the perfect bit of matchmaking. This is everything that fight fans have wanted. They want to see what happens when Moses Itauma goes a few rounds, has someone who's...
You know, look, it's a good fight to make. Dillian White's got the experience. He's also... he can punch, he's strong, he's a big unit. But can he negate the speed, the power and the ferocity of this young heavyweight coming? And he gives angles. He's a good boxer as well. So that's the thing. You've got experience against somebody who's up and coming that hasn't been tested yet because he's so sharp, so deadly.
In the meantime, I think we put together a brilliant fight with Jermaine Franklin, the American. It's going to be a good fight. I think, you know, with Moses and him, I think it's going to be a good fight, and I think it's a good test for Moses.
Moses brings his own problems to Jermaine, but they're probably around the same height, maybe Moses a couple of inches taller. I like this matchup. Stylistically, I like this matchup as well. Like, Jermaine comes to fight, and that could sort of fall into Moses' hands. And I honestly feel this is the perfect opponent for Moses' development. You can't rush Moses. I know everyone wants to see him in there with killers. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I think he's ready. But the fact is, you do have to take your time with Moses. And I think someone like a Jermaine Franklin, who is a top 30 guy, top 30 guy, who again, we've seen him with AJ and Dillian White, so we can compare Moses' performance against him and compare.
Let me break down why this matchup is absolutely perfect for separating the real deal from the pretenders. Jermaine Franklin isn't some washed-up has-been looking for a payday. This dude went the distance with Anthony Joshua and arguably beat Dillian White in a fight that had half the boxing world screaming robbery. We're talking about a fighter who's only been stopped once in his entire career, and that was years ago. Franklin knows how to survive, he knows how to make fights ugly, and he's got the kind of awkward style that gives young fighters nightmares. When you watch Franklin fight, you see a guy who doesn't give you clean shots. He hustles, he clinches, he makes you work for every single exchange. But here's where it gets wild. Moses Itauma has never seen anything like this before. Every single one of his professional fights has ended within 2 rounds. 2 rounds. Think about that for a second. This kid has never had to dig deep, never had to show heart when he's hurt, never had to problem solve when his A game isn't working. And that's not necessarily his fault. When you're knocking people out cold in the first couple of minutes, you don't get the chance to develop that championship-level conditioning or mental toughness. But Franklin's going to test every single aspect of Itauma's game that hasn't been tested yet. Now listen to this part. The comparisons to Mike Tyson aren't just hype. Itauma moves like a young Iron Mike, with that same explosive southpaw style that makes heavyweights freeze up. He's got legitimate one-punch knockout power, and his hand speed is absolutely ridiculous for a guy his size. When he demolished Dillian White, everyone expected White to at least make it competitive for a few rounds. Instead, Itauma turned White into a highlight reel in under 2 minutes. The way he set up that knockout, the precision, the timing, that's not something you can teach. That's pure instinct, and it's terrifying. Here's the kicker, though. Frank Warren and his team know exactly what they're doing with this matchmaking. They could have thrown Itauma in there with a top 5 contender and probably made more money, but they're playing the long game. They want to see how their golden boy handles adversity before they put him in there with the absolute killers of the division. Because let's be real, if Itauma struggles with Franklin's awkward style and veteran tricks, what happens when he faces someone like Fury or Usyk, who can do everything Franklin does but 10 times better? But wait, it gets even more interesting when you look at the styles. Franklin's biggest weapon isn't his power, it's his ability to make fights messy and uncomfortable. He's going to try to lean on Itauma, rough him up on the inside, and turn this into a dogfight instead of a boxing match. The question is whether Itauma can maintain his composure and stick to his game plan when things get ugly. We've seen so many young prospects fall apart the moment their opponent refuses to cooperate and stand there to get knocked out. Franklin isn't going to cooperate. He's going to make Itauma earn every single second of every single round. So here's my prediction and my question for you. I think Itauma gets the knockout, but not until the middle rounds after Franklin gives him some real problems early. This kid's power is just too special, and Franklin's been hurt before by lesser punchers. But I want to know what you think. Drop it in the comments. Is this the fight where we see Itauma's first real test of adversity, or does he run through Franklin like everyone else? If this breakdown got you hyped for this fight, smash that like button, subscribe for more boxing breakdowns, and hit the bell because the heavyweight division is heating up, and you don't want to miss what happens next. The timing of this fight couldn't be more perfect either, and here's why that matters more than people realize. The heavyweight division is in absolute chaos right now, with Fury supposedly retired but not really, Usyk cleaning out the division, and Joshua looking vulnerable every time he steps in the ring. There's a massive power vacuum waiting to be filled, and whoever emerges as the next big thing is going to make generational wealth. Itauma is positioning himself to be that guy, but Franklin represents the gatekeeper that every future champion has to get past. This isn't just about winning, it's about how you win that determines whether you're ready for the big leagues. Let me tell you something that's flying completely under the radar. Itauma's team has been studying Franklin's fight with Joshua frame by frame, and they've identified something crucial. Franklin's biggest weakness isn't his chin or his conditioning, it's his tendency to drop his left hand after throwing his jab. It's subtle, happens for maybe half a second, but against a southpaw with Itauma's speed, that half second is an eternity. If Itauma can time that opening, if he can catch Franklin coming in with that signature left hook, this fight could end even faster than his previous knockouts. But here's the thing, Franklin's team knows this too, which means they're going to completely change his approach for this fight. What's absolutely fascinating is the psychological warfare that's already starting to play out. Franklin's been talking about how he's faced real punchers before, how Itauma hasn't been tested by someone who can punch back. Meanwhile, Itauma's staying quiet, letting his highlights do the talking, which is smart but also risky. Sometimes that quiet confidence can be mistaken for arrogance, and veteran fighters like Franklin know how to exploit that. Franklin's going to try to get in Itauma's head early, maybe with some rough tactics or trash talk between rounds, because he knows that young fighters can lose their composure when things don't go according to plan. But here's where it gets really spicy. The betting odds are telling a completely different story than what the experts are saying. The bookmakers have Itauma as a heavy favorite, which makes sense given his knockout streak, but the smart money is quietly backing Franklin to at least go the distance. Professional gamblers don't care about hype or highlight reels, they care about patterns and probabilities. And the pattern says that young knockout artists often struggle the first time they face a crafty veteran who refuses to play into their strengths. This could be the upset of the year if Franklin can weather the early storm and drag Itauma into uncharted territory.